Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we are going to discuss about ingress, and this is part 7 of Kubernetes crash course for .NET developer. So if you want to go through a previous video, you can find a link in the description block. So before we understand ingress, let's see why we need ingress and what we have already covered. So let me draw it quickly what we have already covered, and you can recall it with that. So if you remember previously we created one web API application .NET Core web API. So then we dockerize this web API. Let me keep it here. Then if you remember, we created Docker file, and with Docker file we created image for that. So let me draw it here, and let's change or let me keep same color, but we created Docker image for that, and then we push it to Docker Hub. So we created one Docker Web API project, then we created Docker image, and then we pushed the Docker image to Docker Hub. Now let's talk about Kubernetes. What we did is in the Kubernetes, we created one deployment. So maybe I will say one deployment. Let's change color to this. And with this deployment, we define the replicas, and replicas, suppose if replica count is 3, so we created 3 pod. So let me say with this, we created 3 pod. I will say pod 1, then pod 2, and then pod 3. So with deployment, when we edit, let me say like replica count is replica is 3. When replica is 3, we created 3 pod. Okay, so now we use this Docker image, whatever the image is there, right? So let me, although it will not look good, but let me draw one arrow here. So just for your understanding, like we use this Docker image in our deployment, and with this deployment, we when we added replica as a 3, it created a 3 pod. And we remember like we were having each pod were having some IP address, maybe I will say x dot x dot x dot 01 in the pod 1, and similar to that we will have like 02 and 03 in pod 2 and 3 as well. So x dot x dot x dot 02, and similar to that it will have one IP address x dot x dot x dot 03. So now, okay, so this pod is having one IP address. Then we thought, if can we access our application with this IP address? But then we realized like pod can be live and die, so we cannot access our application through pod IP address. So what then we discussed? Then we discussed about concept called service. So we created one service I will say service, and basically we created ClusterIP, load balancer, node port kind of services, but to expose our application, we realized like we need to create a load balancer kind of service. So maybe like let me write load balancer here. So we created load balancer kind of service. And let's change color to this. Okay, so with this service, we were able to expose in our browser. If we will try to access this in our browser, you know, so we were able to access it in the browser as well. So now coming question is why we need ingress, right? So ingress is also known as a kind of load balancer, or we can say kind of API gateway. So definitely you will ask, like, we are already having a service which is having a type of load balancer, then why we need ingress? So there are multiple reasons we need ingress instead of this load balancer service. Uh, Major reason is like if you will talk about the some enterprise level load balancer, they are having many functionality which was missing in this Kubernetes service load balancer. We can have only round robin kind of load balancing in this Kubernetes service. For example, if we are getting a 10 request and we are having a 2 pod, so 5 requests will go to one pod and 5 requests will go to another pod. But when we talk about enterprise level load balancers like NGINX, and there are many other enterprise level load balancers are available, which is having a many other functionality, like we can have sticky session load balancer, we can have path based load balancer, we can have uh, domain based load balancer, and many other things which was missing with this service type load balancer. And another thing is whenever you will expose your application with the service type load balancer, we create one public static IP address. So each time, suppose you are having 100 or thousands of applications, so you will have thousands of services and you will create thousands of public IP, which will cost more. So as a cost scenario, also this is not a suitable solutions. So then ingress come in the picture. Like let me delete this, and let's say like instead of accessing it directly, what we will do is we will create ingress. So let me draw ingress here. Let's change color to this, and let's say ingress. So now ingress came in the picture, and instead of accessing your application through this, we can access our application through ingress, and ingress will take care of the load balancer. But we discuss about the enterprise level load balancer like NGINX and many other load balancer, right? So what Kubernetes did is Kubernetes created this ingress resource, and Kubernetes asked all the enterprise level load balancer, and he asked to create a kind of controller. So they will, all load balancer companies will create a controller, and Kubernetes will create this ingress resource, and then we can plug this ingress controller, ingress resource to the ingress controller created by enterprise companies. So we will have one more, like let's say ingress controller, because we discussed, right, there are many companies which is having a enterprise load balancer which was missing in Kubernetes. So then Kubernetes came with the idea like I will create an ingress resource, and then companies can create their controller, and then we can plug both the things and use enterprise level load balancers. So I hope with this you are able to understand why we need ingress. So let me show you what companies we are having. Let me search for ingress. So let's open Kubernetes documentations. And here if you will see ingress controllers, so we are having you can see the list of the enterprise load balancer. So there are many companies options which you can see, and so this controller you can use anything, and ingress resource is created by Kubernetes. So then you need to just enable this ingress controller, and then you can utilize that enterprise load balancing with that. So in today's example, we are going to use NGINX ingress controller. And before that, now let's go to our terminal and see what we have already covered and created in our previous video. So let me run kubectl get all command. So here you can see this three part, right, we created with this deployment. So if you will refer this document, so this is our deployment, and when replica count was 3, then we created this 3 part. And then we created, let's go back to our service. Then we created a load balancer service. So here you can see this load balancer service, and with this service we were able to access our web API in browser. Let me show you as well. So let me tell minikube like minikube service, and then I can give my service name. It is hello KTS service. So let's copy it, and let's say I need URL. So I will define the URL flag here, and let's hit enter. So I received this URL which is provided through minikube. Let me copy it and let's paste it here, and I will say swagger slash index.html. So that I can access the application which we created in our previous video through service load balancer. So all this thing is already covered, right? Now we are going to add one more thing, one more component, which is ingress, and then we will use ingress controller, NGINX ingress controller. Maybe I will add NGINX also here. So, okay. So if you will see this document, first we need to create ingress resource, right? So as we did in our previous video also, we can use this Kubernetes document to create the resources, and then we can modify it accordingly. So let me open ingress here, and if you will scroll down somewhere, so here you can see this part types, and this is what we are going to use it. So this example we are going to take and create our resources. So let's copy this, and let me copy again. So this is I'm going to copy, and let's go back to our application. So this is the same application what we created in our previous video, where we are having this deployment file and this volumes files, PV and PVC files. So here in the KTS folders, I'm going to create one more file. Maybe I will say hello ingress.yaml, and let's paste it here what we copied. Now let's change this to, maybe I will say hello ingress. Let's remove this, And instead of foo.bar.com, we can give anything, host a name. So give I can give maybe tapandubey.com. So let's tapandubey.com. And here in the path, I will say maybe API. And in the service, we need to give our service name. So if you will go back to our terminal, what is the name of our service? It is Hello KTS service. So let's copy this and paste it here. And what is the port it is listening? So if you will see, it is at 8080. So I can change this port to 8080. So we are good so far. Now, let me stop this and let's clear this for better visibility. And let's move to KTest folder where we created our ingress file. Let me list it out. And let me run kubectl get ingress command to see if we are having anything. So we don't have anything, right? You can see it. Now we are going to create this ingress resource first. So same thing what we have already did multiple times. We are going to run same command kubectl apply chef, and then I can give the ingress file name and hit enter. So we can see that it's created ingress resource for us. So let me run kubectl get ingress command again. So now this time we can see hello ingress, and even in the host name I can see tapandubey.com. But one thing, if you will observe, address is empty. And the reason behind that is we created ingress resource. If you will go back to our documentation, this diagram, we we have done with till here. We created till ingress. Okay. If you will see here, we have created till here. Till here we have created the things, but this ingress control is still missing. So to enable ingress control, NGINX ingress control in minikube, what we are using in our local system, we need to enable the add-ons for that. So if you will run command minikube add-ons list, you can find all the uh, add-ons. So we can see that few add-ons are enabled, but remaining are disabled. And what we are interested is ingress, right? So minikube is having a NGINX ingress and it is by default disabled. So to enable it, we need to run one command. I will say like, and before that, let me run one more command. If you will run kubectl get namespace, so you can see that we are having this default and this free cube and one is Kubernetes dashboard namespaces, right? So we will come back on this. Let me enable our ingress minikube add-ons. So I will say minikube add-ons enable. What we are going to enable? That's ingress. So I will type ingress here and let's hit enter. So this will enable the minikube add-ons. It will take some time, so let's wait for it. So this is done. Now if you will run kubectl get namespace command, if remember we executed this get namespace command here and we received this response. So now I want to show you what changed now. If you will run kubectl get namespace command again, so this time you can see one additional namespace is created, that is ingress NGINX. So basically what minikube add-ons enable did is it created new namespace, and under this namespace if you will run let me copy this, and let's say kubectl get pods. So it created this pod, and basically this pod is looking for our ingress resources, and with that we can plug our controller. Our ingress resource and controller can be plugged. So that thing can be done through this pod. So basically this add-ons created this new pod here. Now if you will remember, when we executed kubectl get ingress command, we received this response, but address was empty. So let's try to run this command again and see if anything is getting changed here. So I'm running kubectl get ingress command again. So this time we observe like even the address is not empty, and we can see that one IP is assigned to it. So now we created ingress resources, we enabled the minikube add-ons, and then we can see the address is also created, and also we observed like when we enabled the add-ons, minikube created a new namespace, and we saw like few pod is running under it. But as I am running this locally and I don't have this domain, right? I don't have this domain registered. So as a workaround, I need to, edit my host file and saying like that when the IP is this, then map this IP with this domain so that I can run my application with the domain name. So for that, I need to edit my host file. So for that, let's run vim. I will say sudo vim and etc host, and let's hit enter. Let me type my password. So this is a host file, we can see that, right? So let me, I think I missed to copy the IP address, so let me close this for now. And let's copy this IP address. This is what we are going to map, right? So let me copy this IP address, and now let's run this again, and let's move to insert mode. So for that I need to type I here. So now you can observe like we are in the insert mode. Now let me come to this place. We can see few entries already there in the host file. I'm going to add one more entry here, and I will say if IP is this, then map it with the Tapan Dubey.com. Okay, and to save this, press escape key, then type X. Sorry, I removed that M, so I edit it back. Now I was saying to save your changes, press escape key, and then press colon and X and hit enter. So your changes is saved. You can verify it, you can run cat etc host command again, and here you can see that our changes is saved successfully. Now let's try to because we have let's go back to our diagram, and we created an ingress resource, then we created ingress controller as well, and to run it locally, we updated our host file to map with our IP address. So I think we are done with all the changes. So let's try to access our application if we are able to access it or not. So let me run curl, and before that let me try to ping up my domain name if that host is working fine or not. So maybe I will say ping tapandubey.com. So I'm able to receive the packet. So I think that host what we updated is working fine. So now I can run curl http colon tapandubey.com/, and if you will go back to our ingress file, what we are saying is add this API path, right? So after that I need to add /API here, and then I will say like swagger, then index.html, and I will hit enter, and this will not work. I will tell you why. So let me try to hit enter now. So we can see that we did not receive any response. And we did not receive any response because when we are working with .NET Core, Web API or MVC applications, we need to add the use path based middleware, and we need to tell like if our base path is /API, then only my routing will work. So without that, if I will add, so I will not get any response. So maybe for now, let me update this API. I will remove this API here, and I will keep just / here. Then my routing should work, right? So let me run ls command. So this is our ingress file. So I will run kubectl apply f, and let me give my ingress file here. So now it is configured. Now if I will try to run this, and let me remove this API here, and let's hit enter. So this time it worked, and we can see our API is created. Let me try to even run quickly this endpoint as well. So I will say curl http tapandubey.com. So great, we received a response. So now how we how we can fix that base path, uh, use the base path, and now let's extend this bit, and what I'm going to do is I created one MVC application, if you will see here. So this is just default MVC applications, and it is having that same default controller and actions method. I did not change anything. I just created this MVC application, and then I generated a Docker file. And now let's quickly move to this path. Maybe let me change my terminal to the path we are having a MVC application. And let me explain what we are going to do it. So if you will see our ingress YAML file what we created, and if you remember when we added a path as a API, we were not able to access it because we discussed like we need to use one middleware, use path based middleware, and we will need to tell our API like my base path is API, then only our routing will work. So is we were able to access our application through this path when we edit when we removed API, and we were able to access it. But uh, now what we are going to do is we will create similar kind of sections for our MVC application as well. And here I will say maybe API/API, and when path is API, let's call my uh, you know web API service, and I will add similar sections below, and I will say when path is MVC, call my MVC service. Maybe I can quickly draw and show it as well. So what we are going to do is, we are having currently like we are having one web API, and as I mentioned, I created one more, you know, MVC application. So this is my MVC applications. And what we are going to do is, this is our ingress. Okay, so this is our ingress, and here we have mentioned like path, API, and then path MVC. Let me move this here, this side. Okay, and you know, when we are from browser, like when we are making a request from browser, like here, this is a browser. So in the browser, when we are sending a request, like when we are saying like path is /API, then what we are expecting is, then we are expecting like load my, you know, load my API. And similar way, when we are having a path as a MVC, then what we want is we want to, load our MVC applications. So this we are going to do it, and as I mentioned, I already created one MVC applications, and let's move our terminal to our MVC applications and continue. So yeah, I moved my terminal to MVC applications, and if you are interested how I created this Docker file and uh, how can we dockerize and push to Docker Hub and all that stuffs, and even how can we run with the HTTPS. I am having a separate video for that. You can find that video as well in the description box, and I will highly recommend you to watch that video also. So now we are going to do the dockerizing steps again here, but that video is having more details, so you can follow that. So let's dockerize our MVC application. So I will say docker build, then where is my file? My Docker file is under a test MVC folder. So let me copy this test MVC here, and then I will say Docker file. Now let's give tag, and my Docker Hub username is Dubey Tapan12, so I'm giving Dubey Tapan12, then slash, and then we can give anything. So I will say hello MVC app, and let's hit enter. So this will create one Docker image for us. Okay, now let's run Docker images command. So we can see that this new image is created. Now let's me try push this Docker image to Docker Hub. So I will run Docker push command. Let's hit enter. So this will push this image to the Docker Hub. And now, let me try to open one more instance of Visual Code. So as we dockerized it, pushed our Docker image to Docker Hub. Now we need to create a deployments, right? As we created previously as well. So similar thing now I will create KTest folder for my MVC application as well. So let me create one, not here, it should be at root level. KTest, and here I will create one deployment file. So let me give name maybe hello MVC dot deployment dot YAML. Okay, now let's go back to our previous application, and let me open our deployment file here, and I'm going to copy same deployment and will modify it for our you know, MVC application. So let me copy this. Let me remove this and let's paste it here. Now kind is deployment. Name maybe I will say uh, hello MVC deployment, and instead of hello KATS maybe I will say hello MVC, and let's give it everywhere else. So let me copy this to here, here and here as well. And replica I will say only one replica. I don't want three pods. And image, same image we can give what we created. Maybe let's run docker images command again, so you can see that this is a image we created, right? So let's copy this, and here we can give image. And if you will see our docker file, so we are exposing port 8080, so we don't need to change this port as well. We can keep this as 8080, and this is the steps we don't need, right? Because we don't have any database, and this time we don't need to say like environment is development. We did it because we want to execute Swagger page, but for MVC we don't need this. So let me remove this. So far so good. We can now create our deployment, but before that let's create one service file as well. So I will say hello mvc dot service dot yaml, and let's copy. Let me go back to our deployment folder. Here in the one file only we created everything. So let's scroll down, and here we can see the service, right? We created as a load balancer, but this time because we are using ingress, so it is not very important. We need to create load balancer. Even we can keep the cluster IP as well, because we are not going to expose service directly. Service will be reside inside our cluster only, and it will be exposed through uh, ingress. So I can remove that, and if I'm not defining the type, so default type is cluster IP. So this is done. Now let's go back to our terminal, and let's move to KTS folder. Let's clear this, and let's go back to our service one more time. I need to rename this also, right? Because this is our old service name. So I will say this service is a MVC service. And also, how the service discovery, how the deployment and service discovery is happening, right? Through label and selectors. So how the service will know like which part it has to select. It should match with the label, right? So we missed to update the label as well. So what label we created, it's hello MVC. So let's give same label here so that service will be able to discover the port. Now I think we are good. We can run ls command here. We can see this two file what we created, and then we can run kubectl apply f, and then I will first create this deployment, and then I will create service. So let me paste it here. Now let's run kubectl get pods command. So we can see that we have this new pod running with 15 second before. Now let's run kubectl service command again, service command. What's wrong? Sorry, I need to run get service, right? Not service. So it should be get service command again. So we can see that, service is also listed, and we can see our new hello MVC service, which is a type of cluster IP service. For now, just for demo, let me change this again to load balancer service and see our application, MVC application. So I will, let me say type as a load balancer. Let's save this and let's run apply command again. So service is created. Now let's run get services command again. So we can see this is also load balancer service. Now I will tell my minikube like minikube service, and what is the service we created? It's hello MVC service. So let's paste it here. So minikube created this URL. So let me copy this and let's come here and let's paste it here. So we can access our MVC application, right? Now let me stop this. Let's revert this again. Let me remove this again and let's move to our terminal. So now it is cluster IP service. Just to showcase, I change it to load balancer, right? So now we are having a two application. One is a web API application, one is the MVC applications. And if you will go to our document, what we are going to do is like similar to that, we are having all that same thing for our MVC application as well. And that is having a cluster IP kind of service, and this is having load balancer service. And what we are going to do is we are going to uh, add a path for both the services and load both the applications through ingress. So let's go to our ingress, and here if you will see this section, we added path type prefix and then we added this, and then we have defined our service name, right? So I need to copy same thing again. Here you can see that we can define multiple paths, right? So I will paste this thing here, and this time I will say slash API, and this one I will say slash MVC. But if you remember, when we added slash API, it did not work, and as I mentioned, like we need to add some middleware to tell like my base path is slash API or slash MVC, then only my routing will work. So let's modify our code quickly. Let's move to our repository. So this is my application. Let me open this, and here in the program.cs, I need to add this code. So what this code is doing, it is checking for configuration. If this configuration is exist, then only we are going to enable this middleware and saying like use path base provided by this configuration. So let's do this for our web API, and let's do this for our MVC application as well. So let's move to our MVC applications, and here also I will it should be before use routing, so you need to make sure you're adding before use routing. Let me add this and save this. So now let's move back, and we need to modify our deployment also, right? Because now we are expecting one configuration value, and also we updated our code, right? So whatever image we push, that image is not having this changes, right? So we need one new image. So we need to build a new image first. We need to push that image, and then only we can use that image. So let me run. Basically, I'm going to move to the root of the folders of our API so that I can build a new. Let me clear this first so that it will be better visible. Let's say this CD. So here I am, and now I'm going to create. Let me run docker images command also. Docker images. So this is our image, right? So what I'm going to do is I will create a new tag for this. So maybe I will run command docker build and then F, and where we are having our docker file, it is under this folder, right? So let me copy this, and then I will say docker file tag. I can copy this same, but this time I will say version 02 and dot. So this will create a new Docker image, and why I hope you understand, because we modified our code, right? We modified this program.cs file, and the image what we push to Docker Hub is not having that changes, and our deployment is having that old image. So our changes what we made, that will not reflect in our deployment. So because of that reason, I am creating a new Docker image, and then I will push that Docker image to Docker Hub. Let's do same thing for our this MVC application as well. Let me copy this, and I will say let's run ls command here. Let me clear this. Let's run ls command. So here we are having our Docker file in our MVC application also. It is under test MVC folder. So let me run same command docker build f, and it should be under this. So I will say docker file, then tag, and if you will see this Docker images, we are having this Dubey Tapan 12 hello MVC app latest, right? So for this also I will say 02. So I will say version is a 02 and dot, and let's hit enter. Now, we need to, because we changed the versions of our image, so we need to update our deployment as well. So once let's wait for this to complete, but till then we can even modify our deployment and then we can execute Kubernetes command. So let's open our deployment file. Here, if you will observe, let me close this. Here, if you will observe, we are having KTest DB test, but now we need 02 version. So let me add it here. And another thing which we need is, if you will see, we are passing a configuration as a base URL. So I need to pass that as well, right? So here I will say name base URL, and what we need for value, let's move to our ingress file, right? So for our API we need value as API, or maybe I will say web API. Web API, okay. In ingress I changed it to web API. Now let's add this also here as a web API. Let me save this, and I need to make similar changes in our MVC application as well. So let me copy this. Let's move to our MVC applications, deployment, and here I am going to add this environment variable, and also we need to update the image as well. So this is also a version of 02. So let's save this. Now it is still running. Let's wait for it, and we will execute our deployment and other stuffs. So now let's we build this image, right? We need to push that to Docker Hub as well. So I will run docker push command. Let me run docker images command to show like what we created. So you can see that here this two we created, right? MVC app. So I will say docker push, and it's 02. So let's push this, and similar to that I need to push this API image as well. So let me copy this, and once this command will complete I will push the other image as well. So let's say docker push 02. Now we updated our ingress file as well, right? Because we added, let's move to this ingress file. We added this two path, and then we are saying like if path is web API, then I use this KTest service. If path is MVC, then use this is also I need to update, right? It is still same. I should give the MVC service name. So let me run kubectl get service command again, and hello MVC service I should give for my ingress. So if path is MVC, then use hello MVC. And one more thing which I missed is when I copied environment in my MVC applications, I uh, you know added it as a web API, but it should be MVC. And not just MVC, I think I should say slash MVC, and same thing I should do for this deployment file as well. If you will go here, it is web API, but it should be slash web API. So this is done. Now this values we are passing here in our configurations, and this will enable this middleware, and it will say like use path base as a web API or MVC. So this is done. Now let's move and let's go to our API terminal. Let me clear this. Let's move to KTest folder and let me list it out. So we made changes in ingress, right? We made this changes in ingress. We added web API, we added MVC, and we updated this service name as well. So we need to run kubectl apply command again to reflect these changes, and I will say hello ingress.yaml. Let me copy and paste it here. So our new changes has been applied, configured. Now we made some changes in our deployment file as well. If you will go here, this is our deployment. We added this environment variable. We updated this Docker image version. So we need to run kubectl apply command again to reflect that changes as well, right? So I will say kubectl apply f, and let's give this file name. Let's hit enter. So we can see that our deployment is configured. The remaining thing is unchanged because we did not made any changes for that. Now let's do same thing. Let me run. Let me move to KTest folder. Let's clear this. Let's list it out. And we updated our deployment. So let me run kubectl apply f, and then so our deployment is configured. Let's clear this, and now let's run kubectl get pods command again to see our pod is up and running or not. So we can see that this, this pod is still not up. It is in container creating a status, and this MVC pod is also not up yet. So let's give sometimes let's give 1 or 2 minutes to it, and then we can run kubectl get pods command again, and then we can make sure like our pod is running so that we can continue for other stuff. Now let me run kubectl get pods command again, and hopefully this time, yeah. Now we can see this 3 new pod created just 2 minutes before, and this MVC pod is also created. Now let's try to now let's run kubectl get ingress as well, so we can see that our ingress is also up and running. So now let's run curl command again. Curl http://webapi/swagger/index.html. So we added this time this slash web API on tapandubey.com, and when it is web API, if you will see this ingress, when it is web API, then it should load our web API. So let me hit enter. So great, we can see our web API Swagger page is loaded, and this time even we did not face any issue because we added this code in our .NET application, like use path base. This middleware is resolved the issue what we faced earlier. Now let's run, instead of web API, I will say MVC and let's hit enter. So great, this time even our MVC page is also opened and we can see our MVC application as well. So our Swagger path-based, routing is working. So that's all for this video. I hope you like this video. If you like this, don't forget to click on like button. If you have any suggestions, please put down in the comment box, and please share this videos with your friends. And thank you for watching. Have a great day.